You are Locked On Notre Dame POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports Chicago on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Irish Postcast. My name's Joe George. You can find me on Twitter at JoeGeorge92. Notre Dame wins 52-3 against the Florida State Seminoles. If you're here for the first time, listener, or listen on audio, thanks for checking us out. We do these after every single Notre Dame game. We just started this, the one game before the bye week, so that's why it's only our second postcast show for Notre Dame. But we'll be here for the rest of the season throughout the college football playoffs for all the Notre Dame games wrapping up. We also do Bulls, Bears, and Cubs games here on Locked On Sports Chicago. So fun one for the Irish today. They beat the crap out of Florida State in this one. The defense was just absolutely dominant. We got some key takeaways from the offense in this game, and because it was such a blowout, as I think a lot of these games are going to be towards the end of the season, we're going to kind of focus in on what the college football playoff ranking impact is from this game, and it's kind of nice that we're doing this at 10 o'clock Central Time after a lot of the top 25 games have already concluded today or are near conclusion. So let's get right into it, because this was a very good win for Notre Dame. I mean, you're 24.5-point favorites. You win 52-3, just an absolute drubbing of Florida State. The defense is obviously the story of this game. Look, I know Florida State, they set a record tonight of most losses by a top 10 team since 2000. Their ninth loss. We kind of all knew going into the season that Florida State was not going to be who they were last year when they thought they should have been playing for a national championship and in the college football playoff. The drop-off has been dramatic, though. And to see what Notre Dame did against them tonight, part of it is Florida State, but you can't not give credit to the Irish defense and what they did in this game. The first key story of today, and now for the rest of the season, is Howard Cross. We saw they showed the close-up on television or on Peacock, however you were watching, of that ankle taped up, and that was the most tape I've ever seen on an ankle. But he's on the sideline, he's walking around, so hopefully that's very encouraging news. But Tyler, during the week, will have all the updates about what's going on with Notre Dame and what's going on with Howard Cross, because even though they were so good in this game, when you think big picture, because that's what Notre Dame all is about this season, the way the schedule and your opponents have kind of fallen apart in front of you the rest of the year, is forward thinking to the college football playoff. Is make sure you win your game, make sure there's not a repeat of NIU, but just think forward and think about the college football playoff and Howard Cross and kind of what that injury could mean for this team. And hopefully he's just back next week and it's no big deal. But look, this is what they did against Florida State. Florida State, they're on their second and third quarterbacks in this game, but they did not have a prayer against the Irish. And we know that even with the injuries, like, that is the strength of the Irish this season. But they combined for Florida State quarterbacks, combined for 10 for 26, for 88 passing yards and 2 interceptions. Just terrible football from them. But Notre Dame forced a lot of those incompletions. They were getting constant pressure. They tied for the second most sacks they've ever gotten in a game, unless they got one at the very end there in garbage time. And I'll double check to make sure I get the stat correct then. They ended with 8 sacks on the game. They did not get one in garbage time. The second most sacks that they've gotten, tied the second most sacks in school history in this game with 8 of them. Now, back to the Howard Cross play. Obviously, everyone's a little concerned of what happens there, but immediately Mills goes in and boom, gets the sack. He does the same, celebration as Cross, kind of in salute to him in that moment, it seems like, and then bam, another one, gets another sack. So he's got back-to-back sacks, and then he got the third one, which then the next play was an interception. So what an impact that Mills had on this game. Now, they gave up some rushing yards, and it did feel like, you go back to that first drive, and we'll talk about some of the things that it did impress me the most about Notre Dame's defense in this game. It felt like Florida State early on was kind of having their way running the football, and you can make the argument to just stack the box because of how bad these quarterbacks were, but these are talented kids. Like, these are talented college football players that at some point they're going to have some level of success. So Florida State rushing for over 100 yards in this game means absolutely nothing to me. They scored 3 points. So with that, the first drive, Florida State is moving the ball down the field pretty easily. They're 2 for 2 on fourth down conversions. That first one, there's the penalty, but I can't remember if they accepted it or declined it. But regardless, they completed the pass and they got the first down. They completed another one. Then I can't be honest. I thought it was kind of odd that a team that's 1-8 gets down, into the red zone, close to the goal line, has gone for it twice on fourth down, and then decides to kick a field goal. But that's what Florida State and Norvell decide to do. So they've got a 3-0 lead at that point. But the defense immediately comes back on the next possession, and just that's really where the domination just really picked up right there. So I really appreciate a good response from a team, that when you have something go wrong, that you see your team come out and have an immediate response. And that's what we saw from the Notre Dame defense from that first possession to the second one, where Florida State moved the ball down the field. Next one, nothing. The other one, they get the Notre Dame misses the field goal. Doesn't matter. They get the stop immediately. No big deal. And this game is just completely over at that point. So just 8 sacks in this game, 88 passing yards in total for the Florida State defense. For the Florida State quarterbacks. Just from the secondary to the defensive line to the linebackers, a very, very good day. And I think big picture, if you listen to the first show we did, if not, I'll kind of throw this back out here now. For me, what matters the most about Notre Dame is style points. That because of your schedule, because of the loss to Northern Illinois, what matters the most in terms of impressing the College Football Playoff Committee, besides just being Notre Dame, like we know what the brand means to college football, to ourselves, but Notre Dame just getting those style points, and so getting 8 sacks against Florida State was just such a good thing to see, and just to dominate them in that way, that even though there was chaos in front of you and behind you in the rankings on this Saturday, what the defense did was a huge thing just to keep giving you those style points. My last note here on the defense in this game, I know we've seen them play a couple times this year. I'm a longtime Chicago Bears fan, longtime Notre Dame fan. Like, those are the two most important teams in my life. We do Cubs and Bulls postcast shows as well. So if you're fans of those teams, make sure you subscribe to Locked On Sports Chicago. But my God, to seeing Kennedy Urlacher play as a freshman in college make me feel old. I am 32 years old, and it like still stuns me that Brian Urlacher's kid, besides the fact when I'm driving through Chicago and seeing his new hair is still everywhere, that his kid is playing for Notre Dame, still just blows my mind. So perfect game, honestly, from Notre Dame to have the bend but don't break on the first possession. And at that point, there really was nothing competitive Florida State did, even when they tried to do some double reverse kind of flea flicker on like the third possession of the game. Notre Dame stayed home. So to get all those sacks, to limit a college football offense to only 3 points and 88 passing yards is money on a day like today, as you are trying to impress the College Football Playoff Committee and prove to everyone that forget about NIU. This is a much better football team. And part of that much better football team, it does start with Riley Leonard. And we know the run game is incredible, and we're going to talk about that in the next segment. But a lot we learned from the Notre Dame Irish, I thought, in this one. Some key takeaways from the offense when everything was kind of easy for the defense. There were moments where it wasn't as easy for the offense. So we'll get into that next here. My name is Joe George. You're listening to the Locked On Irish postcast here on the Locked On Sports Chicago YouTube channel. Let's talk about that offense next. All right, LinkedIn, they make it so easy. In my life outside of Locked On Sports, I use LinkedIn to post jobs, and it is the easiest way to do it. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else. Even those who aren't actively searching for a new job might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. It's the only one I look at as well if I'm ever looking for a job. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking at the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. LinkedIn is there for you. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions may apply. How many negative things can you say about an offense when the team scores 52 points in a win over Florida State? There's not really much a negative, but some key takeaways I think we can learn and see from the Irish in this game. First of all, like the sack number, that was huge for the defense. Jeremiah Love, 9th straight game with a rushing touchdown. Now we know with Notre Dame, what's their strength is the rushing attack and the fact that they can get it from anywhere on the field. That Jeremiah Love can be a bell cow back and can get you 100 plus yards, 2 touchdowns in any given day. But when it's not working, and why Notre Dame can still have, I think, real success in the college football playoff this year, is that you have so many guys that you can just hand the ball to carry the rock and to make something happen on the ground, to wear out a defense, to run out the clock. So whether it's Jeremiah Love, who only had 19 rushing yards today on 9 carries, but he had that touchdown. Jadarian Price, 7 carries, 95 yards, the 65-yard touchdown. Maybe one of the worst referees I've ever seen. My God, that guy, they kept showing on TV. He's like staring. At first, I was watching 2 games at once, right? So I was kind of distracted as they're going through the review. I thought they were looking at his shin to see if it was down, not if he was out of bounds. The referee was right there. I don't know how he missed it, but Price gets the 65-yard rushing touchdown, and Riley Leonard, 11 carries, 70 yards, 2 touchdowns. So Notre Dame rushes for 201 yards on 32 carries, 6.3 yards per carry, 4 touchdowns. You'll take that every single day. I mean, that is an offense that can win playoff games, at least one playoff game this year. If you can run the ball like that, it is going to be, even if you play an SEC team, I do think Notre Dame can run the ball virtually against anyone in the rest of the season and what is beyond the regular season this year. It's just a dynamic running attack. I mean, think back to that first possession. That's a great rushing touchdown from Riley Leonard, going all out for the end zone like that. I mean, what a play. And with Riley, like, as frustrating as at times it is watching him pass the ball and be inaccurate, and what was he, 14 for 27 today passing the ball, so still probably not the completion percentage that you'd like to see this offense stepping forward to, and like you'd like to see that closer to 65% like most college quarterbacks, elite college quarterbacks would be. Like, Riley's not that guy, but every deficiency he has, that this offense has in the air, really those 3 guys, in my opinion, Price, Love, and Leonard, can just make up for all of it in the running game. Like they can just do whatever they want, whenever it want, it feels like. Because even if one guy's just not working, like the next guy can just carry the load for this team and really just make it nice and simple for him. Some other things that stood out from this game. Let's do another positive here. Okay, so one thing I love about this game, and I want more of, this is going to be a request that I think we all can agree with, is you have the really nice touchdown pass from Leonard to Mitchell Evans to put them up 21-3. Now, Mitchell Evans only had 2 catches on the day, but the 1 touchdown. I need more. Like, I need more. Like, they got to find a way to get more from Mitchell Evans, like to make him a more focal point of the offense. I just think if you take the run game that you have established and then you can incorporate Evans more in the passing game than they are right now, it will just open things up for Leonard even more and just give this offense a chance to be just even, 10 times better than what it is right now. And it was very good in this game, and very good against Navy before the bye week. Like, they're clicking for the most part. A couple of things I didn't like in this game. One will be one I didn't like, but comboed with a positive for sure. I didn't love the quarterback. I don't know if it was a draw or just an automatic run from Leonard, where he just on the 3rd and 9 before the missed field goal, where he just gets the ball and just immediately takes off. Like, it was hard to tell if that was a draw or he just felt like he didn't have anything and took off. I'm going to assume it's a draw, even though Leonard is a great rushing quarterback. One thing from this game I was hoping for was, and really the rest of the season is, and not to just totally disrespect your opponents, but I do feel like this is where your defense is so good and your opponents are just not talented enough against you, where Notre Dame should be kind of pushing the envelope a little bit with their offense in this game and these upcoming games. And I just don't feel like they're quite doing that enough. So that play, it's nitpicky, I know, but look, they won 52-3. Like, they just dominated Florida State. Like, it's so much good from the run game. We got to nitpick a little bit. At one point in the game, they were 1 for 7 on third downs. That can't continue. I don't think that will continue. And that's where I think part of it is on Riley, where if you're not in that, third and manageable decision where you just feel so confident handing it to Jeremiah Love or to Price, or having Leonard just immediately, a designed run play, you need him to complete, some of these passes. And it felt like that's what they were missing out on. So 1 for 7 on third downs is just, it's not going to cut it, at least early on in the game. I know by the end of the game, it got much better than that. But, as this game was semi-competitive, it was just not great. But on the flip side of that, in that last drive before halftime, they're 2 for 2 on fourth downs. So while they're not converting on the third downs to eventually put them 1 for 7 on third down, they go 2 for 2 on fourth downs on that drive. So it just shows you like this team is very capable of converting in meaningful situations, but you just can't start that slow. And that's where this game before the Price touchdown, Notre Dame was kind of moving along a little bit. Like, I'm just kind of going through my notes. It's like 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. Oh, Price, 17-yard run. Oh, Price, 65-yard rushing touchdown. So the offense was a little stagnant to start the game. So that'd be the other part of this that I would, nitpick with the Irish is just, okay, when you look at this team and how far they can go, I think starting faster will be much more important. As an example of that, I like how they came out and throwing the ball on the first play of the game. Like, I think it was the first play of the game where, like, I like the aggressiveness. I like going out there and letting Riley Leonard sling it. And I thought he was pretty good today. I mean, he's not perfect, but I do think that over the last 7 weeks, Riley Leonard has been a much better quarterback than he was when, I was there in College Station watching the Irish play Texas A&M. And most of that game, it was just like, when are they taking him out? Because I didn't think they were going to win the game in the moment, but of course they do. And Leonard's been pretty good this season. He's not been great, but he's been good enough so far. So that would just be my challenge kind of to Notre Dame, is can they continue to, work this thing through and kind of push the envelope, get Mitchell Evans more involved in the passing game, and really they just got to find a way to click. And that's what one thing I've really learned. I heard someone say it, from the Score in Chicago, was winning gives you time. And even though you lost to NIU, like with where your schedule's at, like, and because of where the season's going, you still have time. It still has time to develop the passing game more. So as it's looked better throughout the season, like, it's not over yet. Like, there's still plenty of room for it to grow. And in a win like this tonight, like, I do think that there was mostly positive things to take away from the offense. But if you missed the 2 big fun stats from this game, if you're just joining us now on YouTube, 8 sacks, ties for the second most sacks in a game in school history. Jeremiah Love, he got his 9th straight game with a rushing touchdown. I think it's Jerome Bettis was the running back on the graphic that they showed on TV that's currently in front of him. So let's look at this game from kind of the big picture perspective. Because like I said at the beginning of the show, like, I think Notre Dame's going to run through a lot of their opponents the rest of the season. And really, we know they control their own destiny. We know that if they win out, they're going to make the college football playoff. Being ranked the number 10 team kind of gives you that early sign. But as you think about hosting a playoff game and being, the 5, 6, 7, or 8 seed versus being on the road in the first round of the playoffs, that will be a big difference maker. So we'll take a look in the next segment about how tonight's 52-3 win over Florida State gives Notre Dame kind of an advantage, or what it means for the college football playoff. We do that next here on the Locked On Irish Postcast on the Locked On Sports Chicago YouTube channel. All right, Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply for product-specific disclosures. Visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC.
Today's episode is presented to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. And if you want a winner with that first $5 bet, I've got one for you. Jets -1 against the Cardinals on Sunday. I don't really love putting my faith in the New York Jets, but I just have a hunch in this one. So take the Jets -1. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
So Notre Dame just absolutely crushed Florida State, as we've been discussing so far into the show. And if you haven't yet, head over to Locked On Sports Chicago if you're listening on audio. Hit that subscribe button. We do postcast shows for every single Notre Dame football game. We'll do Chicago Bears, Bulls, and Cubs games as well throughout the season. Cubs games once MLB season gets here. But we're doing these the rest of the year for Notre Dame after every single game, including hopefully a couple college football playoff games. So how does today's game impact the college football playoff rankings? In that last segment, I said it. I think style points are going to matter for Notre Dame. So they come out in the first TV rankings, number 10 in the college football playoff rankings. Now, look, the first rankings don't mean a ton because we know that chaos is generally going to unfold, and we saw some of that chaos unfold in front of us today. But what is it? How does it affect Notre Dame? The first one I would point out here, Notre Dame's last opponent of the season, Army, or one of their upcoming opponents, Army, got the win today over North Texas. So they're number 25 in the poll. So they'll either stay there or just slightly move up. So that'll just help Notre Dame, get them another signature in quotation marks win. Like, I don't know how the committee will really view Army by the end of the season, but we'll see. I mean, maybe they stick with those rankings. Like, it's got to matter for something. But the big things that happen in front of them: Miami lost, Indiana only won by 5. Alabama, who was number 11, crushed LSU, but Ole Miss beats Georgia at number 3. So when I look at this game, my immediate reaction is, okay, Notre Dame will still be in the top 12. Even though Ole Miss beat Georgia, there is an argument for them to move all the way up into the top 12 after this game. Now, where that gets complicated is Alabama just got a good win versus LSU. Notre Dame played Florida State. Like, we know what they are. They're one of the worst teams in college football this year. So that's obviously a much better win for Alabama. Notre Dame's loss is going to hurt them a little bit, and I really don't know if we will see Miami and Georgia move that far back in the playoff rankings. So Notre Dame's still going to be a top 12 team. Now, the one team in front of them where I think I'm most fascinated by is going to be, fellow Indiana native, the University of Indiana. They only beat Michigan by 5 points. They have the 103rd ranked schedule or strength of schedule in college football this season. I wonder if that's going to hurt them a little bit. And this is why I'm saying style points matter. I do think that when you're playing a Michigan team who's not very good, and Indiana, who has played nobody this season, only wins by 5 versus Notre Dame, who beats Florida State, who's not any good, wins 52-3. I think that should account for something. Even though Indiana hasn't lost this year, to me, they are. If they were any other team, if they were an SEC team, another Big Ten team, some kind of brand, and they were undefeated, they would have been in the top 4. They would have found a way to put them up there. They clearly don't believe in them because of the schedule. So I'm kind of looking at Indiana as just a team that, like, okay, will they fall out of will they fall behind Notre Dame? Will they fall behind Alabama? What do they do with Miami? Now, one thing I think will be different for people, and this is where, the college football playoff rankings versus when they put up the graphic of piecing it together 1 through 12 might look kind of concerning for Notre Dame fans. And if I'm wrong about this, I apologize. But when I'm looking at the standings, what I see in the ACC is SMU is in first place in the ACC now because the Miami lost, but they're outside the top 12. So I think that's gonna continue. Like, no one's leaving the top 12 this week unless they really, really crush Miami for this loss to Georgia Tech, which I just don't see them moving all the way out of 12. So if they don't move out of 12, I do think there's a scenario, because Notre Dame's not in a conference, that SMU, even though they're outside the top 13, would technically qualify as an automatic bid into the top 12 and would have potentially one of the first round buys, even though they actually, in this scenario, would go to Boise State. So I do think there's a world in which Notre Dame is obviously still in the top 12. Like, they're not moving out of that, but they don't move up. They stay at 10. Maybe they move back to 11 because of Alabama's win over LSU. But then when the college football playoff, when they piece it together, maybe we'll see Notre Dame just on the outside, because just when the math all works out, if they fall behind Alabama and Boise State and SMU are behind them, in all technicalities, they would be out of the college football playoff. That's not going to happen this season if Notre Dame wins out. There's too many games in front of them and too much chaos is going to unfold. But at least for this week, just something I'm keeping an eye on when the college football playoff rankings come out on Tuesday. So nice, easy win. Breeze, walk in the park for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish in this one. 88 passing yards, 8 sacks. Jeremiah Love with his 9th rushing touchdown in 9 straight games. Riley Leonard rushed the ball really well. 201 rushing yards for this team. Just a dominant performance from Notre Dame up and down the field against the Florida State Seminoles. Good win. We'll see you next week. If you're a Notre Dame fan and you're listening on the audio feed, wherever you get your audio, head on over, Locked On Sports Chicago, hit that subscribe button. We'll be here live with you for 30 minutes after every single Notre Dame game this season. If you're a fan of the Bulls, Cubs, or Bears, we do live postcast shows for 30 minutes as well. Then my name's Joe George, longtime Notre Dame fan. Thanks for hanging out with us today. We will talk to you next Saturday for another Notre Dame postcast, Locked On Irish postcast here on the Locked On Sports Chicago YouTube channel.